Before I dive into this review of what is probably the best canopy tent available today, I want to take a moment to explain why I am qualified to do so. My first camping trip took place when I was 6 weeks old, and while that alone is not a good qualification, the point I'm making here is that my entire life I have spent it in a camping family, and still to this day I camp. And I have gone camping in pretty much every way possible, whether that's car camping, backpacking, canoe camping, and even what I would consider glamping. Additionally, I grew up camping, doing a lot of car camping using a canopy tent. So I have a lot of experience not only with this new canopy tent, but also past experience. Alright, now with that out of the way, I'm going to start by explaining the specific criteria I use when I set out to find my perfect car camping canopy tent. Number one, most importantly, it needed to have screen walls. Having the option to have a place to prepare, cook, and eat meals, as well as play cards and just hang out after dark and without bugs is a must-have. Getting confined to your sleeping quarters for all of those things, and because the mosquitoes come out in a force, it really puts a damper on the evening. Number two, I needed a waterproof top. I'm not just talking water resistant. I've been camping in situations where it rains for 2 days straight, and having another dry area to go outside of your tent greatly increases the happy factor. And then of course bonus points if there's optional rainproof walls on the canopy tent. Those aren't necessary, but with a little bit of wind, rain doesn't come straight down, it comes sideways.
Almost been non-stop. And tent's doing great. I don't have any leaks. Nothing. It's been really great.
And then lastly, thirdly, I was looking for vertical walls. That's important because it increases the usable real estate and it helps with the waterproof aspect. Slanted walls mean that you can't stand in the corners, you can't really use the corners when you have slanted walls. So the first thing I want to tackle here is the price. I bought the 10 by 10 foot version, so the Northern Breeze 10, and that costs about $500. That price seems a bit absurd, but it was literally the only thing I found that was matching all three of my criteria. And it seems like pretty good quality, so I'm hoping the longevity of the tent will make it worth it, but unfortunately only time will tell. Overall, every part of the tent feels, well built and like it was designed by actual campers. The carry bag has a rugged feel and it's big enough to fit in a tent that's been used. The pull bag has extra reinforcement on like the bottom third of the bag. So when you're throwing your poles back in the bag, you don't have to worry about the poles going through it. The center connecting hub at the very top here, it has its own bag to help protect it during the tent during transport. You actually put that around, put it around the hub and then roll it up all together. The poles are aluminum, so this avoids rust. Obviously, the upper poles are thicker, which gives you more support near the top when you're in heavy winds and storms. There are integrated straps all around to hang lanterns and gear, and even the tie-ups in the corners have nice plastic pieces to tie them up, so you don't have to do any bow ties or anything like that to pull the flaps up out of the way. So everything about this tent has a great presentation and it feels like it's gonna last. So funny enough, my parents have these exact same yellow stakes that come with the tent, and they've been using it for 40 years, not exaggerating. I will say that these new stakes feel slightly less solid than the 40-year-old ones, but I have little doubt they're going to last. So if you've ever used a screened-in canopy, you know that the good no-see-um nets, they restrict airflow, and that's the downside to keeping the bugs out. But this tent has the ability to easily open on two sides to help the airflow. There is also a 4-way vent at the very top. Seems like it would be great to help airflow, but I have no idea how you can open and close the vents once you have the tent erected. That is definitely a downside that I see. If anybody has any suggestions or comments, on that particular, piece, please let me know. So if you look closely at the tent, you'll see that the sides are not perfectly vertical. This would be another downside. It's definitely unfortunate, but the angle of the walls is still really steep. I think it still helps maximize the real estate in here, and the integrated rainproof walls that come down kind of make up for the fact that there's slightly slanted walls, because you can bring those down and not have to worry about your stuff in the corners getting wet. I would say, speaking of the rainproofing, that overall I've had this camp, I've used this in multiple rains now. It's been fantastic.
All right, we got a thunderstorm going on. It came through quick and it's coming heavy.
I will say, I think the corners need some more, or the attachments for the rainproof walls at the corners need more Velcro. There's only one at the bottom and attachment at the top. I think one in the middle would help make that a better option. The vestibule option is nice when trying to fend off a hot summer day. But honestly, I don't know how much I'm going to use that. If there's any chance of rain in the forecast, I wouldn't leave that up overnight, and I wouldn't leave it unattended, because those vestibules, that area sitting up there is likely to collect water. Actually, we have experience with that. It did collect water, so I wouldn't let it sit there and collect water overnight. The other thing I want to mention is the shape. So a square canopy tent is not the best situation. It's not ideal. Typically what you're doing with your square canopy tent is you're putting a picnic table inside here, and picnic tables are not square, they're rectangular. So, you know, decreasing the width and increasing the length would be a little bit better. But the reason I didn't go with the Northern Breeze 12, which is the 12 by 12 foot square footage, I wanted to have a slightly smaller footprint in case I go to a campsite that doesn't have the available area and space to set up a 12 by 12 tent. I think a more ideal size would be something like a 10 by 11, or even maybe a 10 by 12 as an upgrade option. I do have a couple of suggestions. So because the corners of the tent and the walls can open up and they're all zippered, you do need to be careful when you're staking out those corners. Typically when you set up a tent, right, you stake one corner in, you go to an adjacent corner, you pull that as hard as you can, you go to the kitty corner, you pull that as hard as you can, then you go to the last one and you pull it all out, because you're trying to, you know, make it as taut as possible. With this tent, you actually don't want to do that. So the first time I set this up, I made that mistake of pulling everything taut. I wanted to, this is so sturdy of a structure on its own, you don't need to do that. Something I forgot to mention, I wish the guy lines came with a bag to put them in. I have to use a separate bag for that. One of the other tips and tricks would be to, when you're taking the tent down, you actually want to flip it upside down once you have the poles down, once you got it all the stakes down, and you've got it to the point where you're getting ready to fold it. You want to actually flip it upside down. That'll make folding it a lot easier. Alright, so that's my review of the Northern Breeze canopy tent. I was really surprised at the lack of reviews that were out there, and lack of videos of people using it. Hopefully this helps anyone who's looking to make the purchase. If you did find this helpful, it would be great if you could drop a like or even subscribe. I do post other videos, camping trips involved, and I have some already posted. In fact, I'll put some links down in the description and the comments if you want to see any of those other videos. And of course, if you got any questions or anything, you can drop those in the comments too. Thanks.